Rishikesh Prabhu. Thank you for joining.
Krishna,
Please accept
Rishikesh,
humble
Prabhu,
obeisances.
Jai
All glory
Prabhu.
to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.
I want to hear Lebanon Prabhu to read as well today.
Oh, Prabhu, Lebang Prabhu can chant the prayers.
Yes, Prabhu.
Haribo.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raguna Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya. Oh, sorry, Prabhu, I missed the line. Yeah, can I start there?
Yes, Prabhu.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raguna Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vitam Kampitam Scha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Rarakanta Namastute Tap Tap Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrisabhanu Sutu Devi Pranamari Hare Pre Vancha Kalpa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Paridanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Should I also chant this?
Yes, Prabhu, you can chant this also.
Narayanam Namaskritya Narom Chaivam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Shrinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Kirdiyanto Stohi Apradarani Vidunoti Suhotsatam Nashta Prayeshu Apradeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki.
Haribo.
Before reciting the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
Haribo. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Thank you so
Jai.
much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Haribo. Which chapter is this? Just to confirm.
7.
7. All right. Chapter 7, Canto 3, right? Yeah. Text 4. Ashrakshit Bhagavan Vishwam Gunamaya Mamaya Taya Shamshtapayati Etad Bhuyaha Pratyapidashyati. Ashrakshit caused to create. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Vishwam, the universe. Gunamaya, endowed with the three modes of material nature. Atma, self. Mayaya, by the potency. Taya, by her. Shamshtapayati, maintains. Etat, all these. Bhuyaha, then again. Praitapidashyati. Sorry, wait. Praitapityashyati. Conversely, dissolves also. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. By His self-sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, He maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it again and again. Purport. This cosmic universe is created by the Lord for those living entities who are carried away by the illusory energy thought of becoming one with Him by imitation. The three modes of material nature are for the further bewilderment of the conditioned souls. The conditioned living entity, bewildered by the illusory energy, considers himself a part of the material creation due to forgetfulness of his spiritual identity. And thus he becomes entangled in material activities life after life. This material world is not for the purpose of the Lord Himself, but is for the conditioned souls who wanted to be controllers due to the misuse of their God-gifted minute independence. Thus, the conditioned souls are subjected to repeated birth and death.
What was this? Was it 374?
Yes, 374.
Three, 374. Haribol, can you see it?
Yes, can.
Yes, Prabhu, please read.
No, you're showing something else.
Oh, it's the wrong one. What is happening?
You're showing your note screen. Cannot
Yes,
see the
Prabhu, the whole thing
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
crashed. What is going
Okay,
on
fine.
now? Yeah.
Now I can see Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu, the thing crashed. Okay, please continue.
देशतः कालोतो यस्सा अवाष्टातः श्वतो यतः अविलुप्तावाभोधात्मा सायुज्येत्ताजया कथम्. Deshatah, circumstantial, kalatah, by the influence of time, yavan who, asha, the living entity, avashtatah, avashtatah, by situation, shvatah, by dream, anyatah, by others, avilupta, extinct, avabodha, consciousness, atma, pure self, saha, he, yujyata, engaged, ajaya, with nescience, katham, how is it so? Translation: the pure soul is pure consciousness and is never out of consciousness, either due to circumstances, time, situations, dreams, or other causes. How then does he become entangled in nescience? Purport: the consciousness of the living being is always present and never changes under any circumstances, as above mentioned. When a living man moves from one place to another, he is conscious that he has changed his position. He is always present in the past, present, and future, like electricity. One can remember incidents from his past and can conjecture about his future also on the basis of past experience. He never forgets his personal identity even though he is placed in awkward circumstances. How then can the living entity become forgetful of his real identity as pure spirit soul and identify with matter unless influenced by something beyond himself? The conclusion is that the living entity is influenced by the avidya potency as confirmed in both the Vishnu Purana and the beginning of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The living entity is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita as Para Prakriti, Bhagavad Gita 7.5, and in the Vishnu Purana he is mentioned as Para Shakti. He is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord as potency and not as the potent. The potent can exhibit many potencies, but the potency cannot equal the potent at any stage. One potency may be overcome by another potency, but to the potent, all potencies are under control. One potency may become overcome by another potency, but to the potent, all potencies are under control. The Jiva potency or the Kshetragya Shakti of the Lord has a tendency to be overpowered by the external potency, Avidya Karma Samgya. And in this way, he is placed in the awkward circumstances of material existence. The living entity cannot be forgetful of his real identity unless influenced by the avidya potency. Because the living entity is prone to the influence of the avidya potency, he can never equal the supreme potent. Okay. Text 6. Bhagavaneka evasya sarva kshetreshu avashitaha amushya durbhagatvam va klesho va karma bihi kutaha. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of God, Ekaha, alone, Eva Eshaha, all these, Sarva, all, Kshetreshu, in the living entities, Avashtitaha, situated, Amushya, of the living entities, Dur, Bhagatvam, misfortune, Va, either, Kleshaha, miseries, Va, or Karma, Bihi, by activities, Kutaha, what for? Translation: the Lord as the super soul is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery? Purport: the next question put forward by Vidura to Maitreya is, why are the living entities subjected to so many miseries and misfortunes in spite of the Lord's presence in their hearts as a super soul? The body is considered a fruitful tree, and the living entity and the Lord as super soul are like two birds seated in that tree. The individual soul is eating the fruit of the tree, but the super soul, the Lord, is witnessing the activities of the other bird. A citizen of the state may be in miseries for want of sufficient supervision by the state authority. But how can it be possible that a citizen suffers by the state authority? Wow, Prabhu, you keep changing. I can't read. Okay, but how can it be possible? You're making me play hide and seek, is it? But how can it be possible that a citizen suffers from other citizens while the chief of the state is personally present? From another point of view, it is understood that the jiva, living entity, is qualitatively one with the Lord. And thus his knowledge in the pure state of life cannot be covered by nescience, especially in the presence of the Supreme Lord. How then does the living entity become subjected to ignorance and covered by the influence of Maya? The Lord is the father and protector of every living entity, and he is known as the Bhutabrit, or the maintainer of the living entities. Why then should the living entity be subjected to so many sufferings and misfortunes? It should not be so, but actually, we see that it happens everywhere. This question is therefore put forward by Vidura for solution. Text 7. Etasmin me mano vidvan vidyate jnana shankate tannaha paranuda vibho kashmalam manasham mahat. Etasmin, in this, my, manaha, mind, vidvan, O learned one, Kidyate is troubling, Ajnana Nashyan Shankate in distress, Tan therefore, Naha hind, Paranuda clear up, Vibho, O great one, Kashmalam illusion, Manasham relating to the mind, Mahat great. Translation, O great and learned one, my mind is greatly illusioned by the distress of this nescience, and I therefore request you to clear it up. Purport. Such mental bewilderment as represented here by Vidura takes place for some living entities, but not for everyone. For if everyone were bewildered, there would be no possibility of a solution by higher personalities. Prabhu, can you kindly scroll down? Oh, something just happened. Okay, yeah. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Which verse is this, Prabhu? Text 8. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Shri Shuka Uvacha Shaitham Choditaha Shatra Tatta Jigyashuna Munihi Pratyaha Bhagavachittaha Smayan Ivagata Smayaha. Shri Shuka Uvacha, Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Shaha, he, Maitreya Muni, Itham, in this way, Choditaha, being agitated, Shatra, by Vidura, Tattva Jigyashuna, by one who was anxious to inquire, to know the truth. Munihi, the great sage, Pratyaha, replied, Bhagavat Chittaha, God conscious. Smayan, wonder, Iva, since Gata Smayaha, without hesitation. Translation. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed to be astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Purport. Since the great sage Maitreya was filled with God consciousness, he had no reason to be astonished at such contradictory questions by Vidura. Therefore, although as a devotee he externally expressed surprise as if he did not know how to reply to those questions, he immediately became perfectly settled and properly replied to Vidura. Yashmin vigyate sarvam eva vigyataha bhavanti. Anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent. And devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. Although a devotee may apparently express himself to be ignorant, he is full of knowledge in every intricate manner. Text 9. Maitreya vacha Sheyam Bhagavato Maya Yan Nayena Virudyate Ishwarasya Vimuktasya Karpanyam Utabandhanam. Sri Maitreya Vachaha. Sri Maitreya said, Shayam, such a statement, Bhagavataha, of the personality of Godhead, Maya, illusion, yat, that which, Nayena, by logic, Virudyate, becomes contradictory, Ishwarasya, of the supreme personality of Godhead, Vimuktasya, of the ever liberated, Karpanyam, insufficiency, Uta, as so, what to speak of, Bandhanam, bonded. Translation. Sri Maitreya said, certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that the Supreme Brahman or the personality of Godhead is overcome by the illusion or Maya. And at the same time, they maintain that he is unconditioned. This is against all logic.
Very nice. Good.
Yeah, we can read that again, maybe, if it's okay with you. Sri Maitreya said, certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that the Supreme Brahman or the personality of Godhead is overcome by illusion or Maya. And at the same time, they maintain that he is unconditioned. This is against all logic. Yes. Purport. Sometimes it appears that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is 100% spiritual, cannot be the cause of the illusory potency which covers the knowledge of the individual soul. But factually, there is no doubt that the illusory external energy is also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. When Vyasadeva realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw the Lord along with his external potency. which covers the pure knowledge of the individual living entities. Why the external energy acts in this way may be considered as follows, as analyzed by great commenters like Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami. Although the material illusory energy is distinct from the spiritual energy, it is one of the many energies of the Lord, and thus the material modes of nature, the modes of goodness, etc., are surely qualities of the Lord. The energy and the energetic personality of Godhead are not different. Although such energy is one with the Lord, he is never overpowered by it. Although the living entities are also parts and parcels of the Lord, they are overcome by the material energy. This inconceivable yogam aishwaryam of the Lord, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9.5, is misunderstood by the froggish philosophers. In order to support the theory that Narayana, the Lord himself, becomes Daridra Narayana, a poor man, they propose that the material energy overcomes the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, however, offer a very nice example and explanation. They say that although the sun is all light, the clouds, darkness, and snowfall are all part and parcels of the sun. Without the sun, there is no possibility of the skies being overcast with clouds or darkness, nor can there be snowfall on the earth. Although life is sustained by the sun, life is also disturbed by darkness and snowfall produced by the sun. But it is also a fact that the sun itself is never overcome by darkness, clouds, or Prabhu, can you please get in the middle? Yes. Can you zoom out, Prabhu, a little bit? I think. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Nor can there be snowfall on earth. Although life is sustained by the sun, life is also disturbed by the darkness and snowfall produced by the sun. But it is also a fact that the sun itself is never overcome by darkness, clouds, or snowfall. The sun is far, far away from such disturbances. Only those who have a poor fund of knowledge say that the sun is covered by a cloud or the darkness. Similarly, the Supreme Brahman or Param Brahman, the personality of God, it is always unaffected by the influence of the material energy, although it is one of his energy. Parasha Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. There is no reason to assert that the Supreme Brahman is overpowered by the illusory energy. The clouds, darkness, and snowfall can cover only a very insignificant portion of the sun's rays. Similarly, the modes of material nature may react upon the ray-like living entities. It is the misfortune of the living entity, certainly not without reason, that the influence of the material energy acts on his pure consciousness and eternal bliss. This covering up of pure consciousness and eternal bliss is due to avidya karma shamgya, the energy which acts on the infinitesimal living entities who misuse their minute independence. According to the Vishnu Purana, Bhagavad Gita, and all other Vedic literatures, the living entities are generated from the Tatashta energy of the Lord, and thus they're always like the energy of the Lord and are not the energetic. The living entities are like the sun's rays. Although, as explained above, there is no qualitative difference between the sun and his rays. The sun's rays are sometimes overpowered by another energy of the sun, namely by clouds or by snowfall. Similarly, although the living entities are qualitatively one with the superior energy of the Lord, they have the tendency to be overpowered by the inferior material energy. In the Vedic hymns, it is said that the living entities are like the sparks of a fire. The sparks of a fire are also fire, but the burning potency of the sparks is different from that of the original fire. When the sparks fly out of torch with the original fire, they come under the influence of a non-fiery atmosphere. Thus, they maintain the potency to be again one with the fire as sparks, but not as the original fire. The sparks can everlastingly remain within the original fire as its parts and parcels. But the moment the sparks become separated from the original fire, the misfortune and miseries begin. The clear conclusion is that the Supreme Lord, who is the original fire, is never overpowered, but the infinitesimal sparks of the fire can be overpowered by the illusory effect of Maya. It is a most ludicrous argument to say that the Supreme Lord is overpowered by his own material energy. The Lord is the master of the material energy, but the living entities are in the conditioned state controlled by the material energy. That is the version of Bhagavad Gita. The froggish philosophers who put forward the argument that the Supreme Lord is overpowered by the material mode of goodness are themselves illusioned by the same material energy, although they think of themselves as liberated souls. They support their arguments by a false and laborious jugglery of words, which is a gift of the same illusory energy of the Lord. But the four froggish philosophers, due to a false sense of knowledge, cannot understand the situation. The 6th canto, 9th chapter, 34th verse of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it is stated, Dura vabhodha ivatvayayam vahayarogyo hidashyashrano sharira idam anavekshitashmat samyavaya atman aivai kriyamanena sagunan agunaha shidjashi pashi harshashi. The demigods prayed to the Supreme Lord that although his activities are very difficult to understand, they can still be understood to some extent by those who are sincerely engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. Oh. Demigods pray to the Supreme Lord that although his activities are very difficult to understand, they can still be understood to some extent by those who are sincerely engaged in the service of the Lord. The demigods admitted that although the Lord is apart from the material influence of creation, he nevertheless creates, maintains, and annihilates the complete cosmic manifestation by the agency of the demigods. Thank you very, very much, Sami Prabhu, for allowing me to read. Any other devotees would like to continue? Thank you, Amit Prabhu, for joining the Nvat Pranam. Jai Shri
Request
Prabhupada.
Pranjal
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu, Dandar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare
Prabhu, can I
Krishna
read?
Prabhu, Dandar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhu.
Uh,
Very nice to have 10 people here. I think this is...
Prabhu, I was not joining since way long, like my exams and so much things. Now exams are almost over. Yeah, I'll join.
Thank you
Okay,
for
can I
joining,
start,
Prabhu.
Prabhu?
Haribol.
Yad arthena vinamushya pumsa atma viparyayah pratiyata upadrashtu swashiraschedanaschedanadik. Yat thus, arthena by purpose or meaning, vina without, amushya of such a one, pumsa of the living entity, atma viparyayah upset about self-identification, pratiyate so appear, upadrashtu of the superficial onlooker, swa shirah own head, chedanadikah cutting off. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The living entity is in distress regarding his self-identity. He has no factual background like a man who dreams that he sees his head cut off. But a teacher in school once threatened his pupil that he would cut off his head and hang it on the wall so that the child could see how his head was being cut off. The child became frightened and stopped his mischief. Similarly, the miseries of the pure soul and the disruption of his self-identification are managed by the external energy of the Lord, which controls those mischievous living entities who want to go against the will of the Lord. Actually, there is no bondage. In his pure consciousness, when he thinks a little seriously about his position, he can understand that he is eternally subordinate to the mercy of the Supreme and that his attempt to become one with the Supreme Lord is a false illusion. Life after life, the living entity falsely tries to lord it over material nature and to become the lord of the material world. But there is no tangible result. At last, when frustrated, he gives up his material activities and tries to become one with the Lord and speculate with much jugglery of words, but without success. These activities are performed under the dictation of the illusory energy. The experience is compared to the experience of once having his head cut off in a dream. The man whose head has been cut off also sees that his head has been cut off. If a person's head is severed, he loses his power to see. Therefore, if a man sees that his head has been cut off, it means that he thinks he thinks like that in hallucination. Similarly, a living entity is eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord, and he has this knowledge with him. But artificially, he thinks that he is God himself, and that uh, although he is God, he has lost his knowledge due to Maya. This conception has no meaning, just as there is no meaning to seeing one's head being cut off. This is the process by which knowledge is covered. And because this artificial rebellious condition of the living entity gives him all troubles, it is to be understood that he should take to his normal life as a devotee of the Lord and be relieved from the misconception of being God. The so called liberation of thinking oneself God is that last reaction of avidya by which the living entity is trapped. The conclusion is that a living entity deprived of eternal transcendental service to the Lord becomes illusioned in many ways. Even in his conditional life, he is the eternal servant of the Lord. His servitude under the spell of illusory Maya is also the manifestation of his eternal condition of service. Because he has rebelled against the service of the Lord, he is therefore put in the service of the Maya. He is still serving, but in a perverted manner. When he wants to get out of service under material bondage, he next desires to become one with the Lord. This is an other illusion. The best course, therefore, is to surrender unto the Lord and thus get rid of the illusory Maya for good, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Daivi yashi gunamayi mama maya durajaya ma meva padyante maya mitam karantite. यथा जले चंद्रमसः कंपादिस्तत्कृतो गुण दृश्यते सन्नपि द्रष्टुर आत्मनो नात्मनो गुणः. Yatha, it is so, jale, in the water, chandramasah of the moon, kampadi, kampadi, quivering, tat krita, done by the water, guna, quality, drishyate, it is so seen, asanapi, without existence, drashtu, of the seer, of this. So, what is seer or seer? Meaning of that was this of the seer. Or is it the one who sees drashtu? Person who is supposed to be able to, through supernatural insight, to see what the future holds. Atmana of the self, Anatmana of other than the self, Guna, quality. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, His Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As the moon reflected on water appears to be, as the moon reflected on water appears to the seer to tremble due to being associated with the quality of the water. So the self associated with matter appears to be qualified as matter. Purport: the moon in the sky is compared to the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead, and the living entities are compared to the reflection of the moon on water. The moon in the sky is fixed and does not appear to quiver like the moon on the water. Actually, like the original moon in the sky, the moon reflected on the water should also not quiver, but because of being associated with water, the reflection appears to be quivering. Although in actual fact the moon is fixed. The water moves, but the moon does not move. Similarly, the living entities appear to be tainted by material qualities like illusion, lamentation, miseries, etc. Although in the pure soul, such qualities are completely absent. The word pratiyata, which means apparently and not actually, like the experience of having one's head cut off in a dream, is significant here. The reflection of the moon the reflection of the moon on the water is the separated rays of the moon and not the actual moon. The separated parts and parcels of the Lord entangled in the water of material existence have the quivering quality, whereas the Lord is like the actual moon in the sky, which is not at all in touch with water. The light of the of sun and moon reflected on water matter makes the matter bright and praiseworthy. The living symptoms are compared to the light of the sun and the moon illuminating material manifestations like trees and mountains. The reflection of the sun or moon is accepted as the real sun or moon by less intelligent men, and the pure monistic philosophy develops from these ideas. In fact, the light of the sun and moon are actually different from the sun and moon themselves, although they are always connected. The light of the moon spread throughout the sky appears to be impersonal, but the moon planet, as it is personal, and the living entities on the moon planet are also personal. In the rays of the moon, the different material entities appear to be comparatively more or less important. The light of the moon on the Taj Mahal appears to be more beautiful than the same light in the wilderness, although the light of the moon is the same everywhere. Due to being differently appreciated, it appears to be different. Similarly, the light of the Lord is equally distributed everywhere, but due to being differently received, it appears to be different. One should not therefore accept the reflection of the moon on the water as actual and misunderstand the whole situation through monistic philosophy. The quivering quality of the moon is also variable. When the water is standing still, there is no quivering. A more settled conditioned soul quivers less, but due to material connection, the quivering quality is more or less present everywhere. Savai nivritti धर्मेण वासुदेवानुकम्पया भगवद्भक्ति योगेन तिरोधते शनैरिह. Saha, that why also nivritti, detachment, dharmena, by an engagement, Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anukampaya, by the mercy of Bhagavat, in relation to the personality of Godhead, Bhakti Yogena, by linking up, Tirodhate, gradually diminishes, Shanai, very soon, Iha, in this existence. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. But that misconception of self-identity can be diminished gradually by the mercy of personality of Godhead Vasudeva, by the process of devotional service offered to the Lord in the mode of detachment. But the quivering quality of material existence which comes from identification with matter or thinking oneself under the material influence of philosophical speculation to be God can be eradicated by devotional service to the Lord by the mercy of the personality of Godhead Vasudeva. As discussed in the first canto, the application of devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, uh, because it invites pure knowledge, quickly detaches one from the material conception of life and thus revives one's normal condition of spiritual existence, even in this life, and frees one from the material winds which cause one to quiver. Only knowledge and devotional service can elevate one towards the path of liberation. The development of knowledge for the purpose of knowing everything without rendering devotional service is considered fruitless labor, and one cannot get the desired result by such labor of love. Uh, the Lord Vasudeva is pleased by devotional service only, and thus his mercy is realized by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Pure devotees of the Lord are transcendental to all material desires, including the desire for the results of creative activities and philosophical speculation. If one wants to acquire the mercy of the Lord, he has to associate with pure devotees. Such association alone can by degrees release one from the quivering elements. Verse 13. Yaden, Yadendriyoparamotha drashtraत्मनि परे हरौ विलीयन्ते तदा क्लेशः संसुप्तस्येव कृच्छनः. Yada, when Indriya senses uparamah satiated, atha, thus drashtatmani unto the seer, the super soul, pare in the transcendence, harau unto the supreme personality of Godhead, viliyante become merged in, tada at that time, kleshah miseries, samsuptasya one who one who has enjoyed sound sleep eva like Krishna incomplete. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the senses are satiated in the seer or super soul, personality of Godhead, and merge in Him, all miseries are vanquished, as far as after a sound sleep. But the quivering of the living entity, as described above, is due to the senses. Since the entire material existence is meant for sense gratification, the senses are the medium of material activities, as they cause the quivering of the steady soul. Therefore, these senses are to be detached from all such material activities. According to the impersonalists, the senses are stopped from work by merging the soul in the supersoul Brahman. The devotees, however, do not stop the material senses from acting, but they engage their transcendental senses in the service of the transcendence, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In either case, the activities of the senses in the material field are to be stopped by cultivation of knowledge, and if possible, they can be engaged in the service of the Lord. The senses are transcendental in nature, but their activities become polluted when contaminated with five matter. We have to treat the senses to cure them of the material disease, not stop them from acting, as suggested by the impersonalist. In Bhagavad Gita 2.59, it is said that one ceases all material activities only when satisfied by contact with a better engagement. Consciousness is active by nature and cannot be stopped from working. Artificially stopping a mischievous child is not a real remedy. The child must be given some better engagement so that he will automatically stop causing mischief. In the same way, the mischievous activities of the senses can only be stopped by a better engagement in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the eyes are engaged in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord, the tongue engaged in tasting prasadam or remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord, the ears engaged in hearing His glories, the hands engaged in cleaning the temple of the Lord, the legs engaged in visiting His temples, or when all the senses are engaged in transcendental variegatedness, then only uh, then only can the transcendental senses become satiated and eternally free from material engagement. The Lord, as the super soul residing in everyone's heart, as the supreme personality of Godhead in the transcendental worlds, far beyond the material creation, is the seer of all our activities. Our activities must be so transcendentally saturated that the Lord will be kind enough to look upon us favorably and engage us in His transcendental service. Then only, uh, then only can the senses be satisfied completely and be no longer troubled by material attraction. Okay, अशेषसङ्क्लेशसमं विधते गुणानुवादश्रवणं मुरारे किं वा पुनस्तच्चरणारविन्द परागसेवारतिरात्मलब्ध अशेष unlimited sanklesha miserable conditions shamam cessation vidhate can perform guna anuvad description of the transcendental name form quality pastimes entourage and paraphernalia etc shravanam hearing and chanting murare of murari Shri Krishna the personality of Godhead kim va what to speak of guna again tat his charanaravinda lotus feet paraga seva service of the dust of flavor Rati attraction, Atma, Labdha, those who have gained such self achievement. Prabhu, can you scroll down?
Where, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishnesh, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have read the whole. Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc., of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord? Purport: two different methods for controlling Two different methods for controlling the material senses are recommended in the Vedic scriptural wisdom. One of them is the process of jnana, or the path of philosophical understanding of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The other is that of direct engagement in the transcendental Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, it closed on its own.
Yes, Prabhu. Where were you? Was it here?
Prabhu, I don't know, like the application closed on its own. Now it's restarting. Screen is loading. It's not visible now.
Yes, Prabhu.
I might see. Okay, my network is internet is consumed. That's why I think. Let me connect to Wi-Fi. Then.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu, for reading. Who wants to continue?
Where should I start? Maybe I'll start from purport, okay? From the start of
Yes,
the
Prabhu.
purport. Purport. Two different methods of controlling the material senses are recommended in the Vedic spiritual wisdom. One of them is the process of jnana, or the path of philosophical understanding of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The other is that of direct engagement in the transcendental loving devotional service of the Lord. Of these two most popular methods, the path of devotional service is recommended here as the best, because one on the path of devotional service does not have to wait for the attainment of the fruitive results of pious activities or for the results of knowledge. The two stages of executing devotional service are: first, the stage of practicing devotional service with our present senses under the regulations of the recognized scriptures, and second, attaining sincere attachment for serving the particles of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. The first stage is called sadhana bhakti, or devotional service for the neophyte, which is rendered under the direction of a pure devotee, and the second stage is called raga bhakti, in which the mature devotee automatically takes to the various service of the Lord out of sincere attachment. The great sage Maitreya now gives the final answer to all the questions of Vidura. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate means to mitigate all the miserable conditions of material existence. Let me read this out again. The great sage Maitreya now gives the final answer to all the questions of Vidura. Devotion service to the Lord is the ultimate means to mitigate all the miserable conditions of material existence. The path of knowledge, or that of mystic gymnastics, may be adopted as a means for the purpose, but unless mixed with bhakti or devotional service, they are unable to avoid the desired result. By practicing sadhana bhakti, one may gradually rise to the point of raga bhakti. Scroll down, bro. Raga bhakti, and by performing raga bhakti in loving transcendental service, one can even control the supreme powerful Lord. Text 15. Vidrovacha sanchinnah samsayo manyam tavas sukta sina vibho उभ्य उभयत्रापि भगवन् मनो मे संप्रधावति. Synonyms. Sri Viduraha Uvacha. Sri Vidura said, Sanchinnah, cut off, Samsayaha, doubts, Mahyam, unto me, Tava, your, Sukta Asina, by the weapon of convincing words. Vibho, O my Lord, Ubhayatra Api, both in God and the living entity. Bhagavan, O powerful one. Manaha, mind. Me, my. Sampradhavati, perfectly getting in. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Vidura said, "O powerful sage, my lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them." Purport. The science of Krishna or the science of God and the living entities is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. Doubts about the eternal relationship of the Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways. But the conclusive fact is that the relationship of God and the living entity is one of the predominator and the predominated. The Lord is the eternal predominator and the living entities are eternally predominated. Real knowledge of this relationship entails reviving the lost consciousness to this standard, and the process for such revival is devotional service to the Lord. By clearly understanding from authorities like the sage Maitreya, one can become situated in real knowledge, and the disturbed mind can thus be fixed on the progressive path. Text 16. Sadvyetad vyahritam vidvan natma mayayanam hareh abhatya partham निर्मूलम विश्वमूलम न यद्बहिः synonyms. Sadhu, as good as it should be. Etat, all these explanations. Vyahritam, thus spoken. Vidvan, O learned one. Na, not. Atma, the self. Maya, energy. Ayanam, movement. Hare, of the personality of Godhead. Abhati, appears. Apartham, without meaning. Nirmoolam, without basis. Vishwa, Moolam, the origin is the supreme. Na, not. Yat, which. Bahihi, outside. Translation. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. Purport. A living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of the entire material manifestation, for otherwise the Lord has no need to create such a manifestation even for his pastimes. The conditioned soul, under the spell of the external energy of the Lord, falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is the predominator of the external energy, Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material condition. The false attempt of the living entity to occupy the predominating post of the Lord is the cause of his material bondage, and the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. Text 17. यश्च मूढ़तमो लोके यश्च बुद्धेः परं गतः तावुभौ सुखं एधेते क्लिश्यत्यनन्तरितो जनः. Synonyms. Yaha, one who is cha, also modhatamaha, the lowest of the fools, loke, in the world, yahcha, and one who is buddhe, of intelligence, param, transcendental, gataha, gone, tau, all of them, ubhau, both, sukham, happiness, edhete, enjoy, klishyati, suffer, antaritaha, via media, janaha, persons. Translation. Both the lowest of fools and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoy happiness, whereas persons who are between them suffer the material pangs. Purport. The lowest of fools do not understand material miseries. They pass their lives merrily and do not inquire into the miseries of life. Such persons are almost on the level of the animals who, although in the eyes of superiors are always miserable in life, are unaware of material distresses. A hog's life is degraded in its standard of happiness, which entails living in a filthy place, engaging in sex enjoyment at every opportunity movement, at every opportune movement, and laboring hard in a struggle for existence. But this is unknown to the hog. Similarly, human beings who are unaware of the miseries of material existence and are happy in sex life and hard labor are the lowest of fools. Yet, because they have no sense of miseries, they supposedly enjoy so-called happiness. The, the other class of men, those who are liberated and are situated in the transcendental position above intelligence, are really happy and are called Paramahamsas. But persons who are neither like hogs and dogs, nor on the level of Paramahamsas feel the material pangs, and for them inquiry on the supreme truth is necessary. The Vedanta Sutras state Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now, one should inquire about Brahman. This inquiry is necessary for those who are between the Paramahamsas and the fools who have forgotten the question of self-realization in the midst of life in sense gratification.
Haribo. Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, this verse was really interesting. If someone
Yes,
is
Prabhu.
happy, he's either stupid as animal or he's transcendental.
Can you please say that again?
So, if someone is happy, he's either stupid as an animal or he's transcendental.
Right.
If someone is in between, he cannot be happy.
Yeah. So anybody in between, they suffer.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. So now we need to go 6 Astakam prayers. It's 9 p.m.
See, that analogy is applicable to other philosophy as well, or philosophy as well. For example, if you are a dharmic person, a religious person, okay, topmost religious person, then you will enjoy. If you are not religious, you are adharmic or sinful, okay, then you can enjoy again. But if you are in between, you don't know whether what is dharma and what is adharma, you will suffer again.
Like the hippie can be happy,
Right.
or the devotee can be happy. But somebody who's like
Exactly.
a working class man who's engaged in sense gratification at the same time, you don't know what he's doing, he'll be extremely suffering.
Right.
But that is only in this life. For example, if somebody is very stupid, for whatever reason, and he's like very like whatever, but still somehow or other he's engaged in sinful acts, right? In this life, he can maybe not feel so much misery or whatever, but actually next life he has to suffer in hell. No?
That is again a different story. Okay. You
Yeah.
are talking about the results of the present karma, present deed that he is
Present ignorance,
performing.
yes.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, the today's persons are totally in depth today. Um,
Yes, bro.
so in order for you to be happy, you have to you have to be either the topmost fool or the topmost transcendental person.
Yes, Prabhu. And there's so many who are saying that they're happy. Every day I see.
Okay. And most of the people in general raises this question, how to solve the miseries of the life. Okay, that has been answered in one of those verses as well here. So devotional service is the only solution for anyone to get out of all these miseries in this material life. Maybe text 14. Three, 7, 14. Scroll down a bit. Yeah, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Go up a bit. Yeah, purport of text 14. Hold on, bro. Hold on. The great sage, yeah, there it is. Come down, please. Further down, yeah, there it is. The great sage Maitreya now gives the final answer to all the questions of Vidura. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate means to mitigate all the miserable conditions of material existence.
Yes, Prabhu.
This sentence has to be underlined with bold
Read it.
letters.
Can you read it again?
Yeah, the last line. Okay, the great sage Maitreya now gives the final answer. That is the final verdict to all the questions of Vidura. Devotional service to the Lord, is the ultimate means to mitigate all the miserable conditions of material existence. The path of knowledge or that of mystic gymnastics may be adopted as a means for the purpose, but unless mixed with bhakti or devotional service, they are unable to avoid the desired results.
Yes, Prabhu. That's a really nice point.
So that is the solution for all our problems in this life, in this material life.
What verse we stopped at? Was it 20?
15.
Oh. So tomorrow we continue from 18.
Yes.
Yes,
Did we
Prabhu.
stop at 17?
Yes,
What,
Prabhu.
Prabhu?
17. 17,
Okay,
17, yeah.
Okay, oh, yeah.
चेतोदर्पणमार्जनं भवमहा दावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयकैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावादुजीवनम् आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदां पूर्णामृतास्वादनं सर्वात्मा स्नपनं परं विजयते Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Namnamakaribahuda nija sarva shaktis tadrarpitanyamita smaranena kalaha eta trishita vakapan bhagavan mamapi duradaiva metrishame haijina nuragraha.
त्रिनादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीः सदा हरिः. Amit Prabhu, continue. Next one.
Beautiful. न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतान्पत्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि.
Ainandatanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddho kripaya tavapada pankaja stitaduli satrisham vichintaya.
नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदहृदया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपुः कदा तव नाम गृहणे भविष्यति.
युगायतं निमेषेन चक्षुषा प्रवृषायतं शून्यायतं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्द विरहेण.
आश्लिष्यवापादरतान् पिनष्टु माम् अदर्शनां मर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटौ मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः. Revolt.
Haribol, glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by chanting your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than devoid of all sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your costless devotional service birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal savior, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs on my body stand rest?
O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly in his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord unconditionally.
Haribol, Sri Siksastakam ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.
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 Janma Karayadi Shavana Kirtan Tabutana Paya Krishna Pade Premadan. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many birds, he will not get the love of God. That is the ultimate goal of this chanting. The 10 offenses against the holy name are as follows. The first offense is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord.
Second
Second
offense
offense
to
is to
consider
consider the
the
name. Continue, Prabhu.
can carry on, Prabhu. Okay. To consider the names of
To
demigods
consider
like
the
Lord
names
Shiva
of
or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu.
third offense is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master.
And to consider him as an ordinary human being.
Fourth offense to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in preference of the Vedic version.
Fifth offense, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination.
Sixth offense, to
Sixth offense, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord.
seventh offense, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord.
Eighth offense is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious rituals, karma kand. Ninth offense, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
10th offense, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Vancha
Kripasindhubhyascha Patyanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnavibhyo
Please forgive me
Namo
for my offenses which I've committed, dear devotees. Thank you so much. Haribol.
And the Gaudiya Vaishnava ki jai, Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Shila
Jai.
Premanande,
Jai.
Haribol.
Hare Haribol. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Bol.
See you all tomorrow. Haribol.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Haribol. Jai Shila Prabhupada.